Well, hello and welcome to episode 71 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here as always with McCullaugh. McCullaugh, we are fresh out of the Oscars. We were able to take a break from watching 100 3-hour long films, but that doesn't matter because we're going to watch another Oscar film today anyways. But how are you doing? How are you feeling post Oscars? Are you feeling blue from post Oscars? Are you feeling reinvigorated, ready to take on the world? How are you doing this week?
I'm good. I started to watch a bunch of TV because I feel like I neglected all of my shows. So I got in season 4 of Mrs. Maisel. I started Bridgerton because everybody's watching Bridgerton season 2.
True.
It's those two. I think Bridgerton just came out, but Mrs. Maisel's been out for a while and I've neglected it. So if you're into Mrs. Maisel, everybody, it is on Prime and it is season 4 and it's amazing. You get lots of Lenny Bruce, who's one of my favorite people of all time. Oh man, it's so good. So, and I didn't realize, but the creator of Mrs. Maisel also was the creator of Gilmore Girls. I had no idea. No wonder you love this show so much.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
Is great.
Absolutely. If you know anything about me, you know that I love the Gilmore Girls and Amy Sherman-Palladino doing Mrs. Maisel too. So the writing style is very similar. Mrs. Maisel obviously is more adult, being on the streaming Amazon as opposed to the Gilmore Girls. But yeah, really great. You and I had talked about it because it's been out for a little while now, but I hadn't started watching it until I started just a couple days before you watched it, and some of the reception to it was kind of hot and cold. But I have to say, I really liked season 4. I thought it was great. I thought it was funny. I thought it was really compelling and kind of the story of these characters, and I'm excited to see where it goes, if it's going to go, for another couple of seasons, or if they're going to start to kind of wind this thing down. But I'm really excited to see how these characters go. So check out Miss Maisel. I haven't gotten into season 2 of Bridgerton yet. That just came out, I think last week maybe. So people are watching that. I'm sure we'll get to it here at some point and see how it goes. But just relishing in some post-Oscar time, really. But we have one more Oscar film to talk about. Well, at least for this Oscar season, at least.
That's right.
It's a big one. We both love it. So why don't we take a quick break, because the cocktail this week is going to be a little complicated. So we need some time to talk about it with everyone. And we'll be right back to mix that up and get into it.
So this week's cocktail is a really special one. We first laid eyes on this in LA Weekly, and there was this really beautiful article about all of the Oscar cocktails that they were doing at a wonderful little place called Fanny's, which is the fabulous cocktail bar / restaurant located at the actual Academy Museum, where the Academy Awards are.
Yeah, that's right. So the Academy Museum is really cool. It has a lot of obviously a lot of film history and, Academy history and stuff like that. And there's this cocktail bar restaurant there called Fanny's, and they do a big, kind of lead up into the Oscars with all of these cocktails. And the article in LA Weekly was great because it laid out all the cocktails for the 10 Best Picture nominees. And one of them was for CODA, which ultimately went on to win. So we're looking through this article. We're looking at the pictures. We wanted to do CODA. And we see this cocktail, and it's the very first one in the article, and it's blue. It is crystal clear. It is stunning looking. And the article was nice enough to give you the ingredients, or at least kind of the basic ingredients for it, which a lot of times articles do. And you can kind of, we've been doing this now for 71 episodes, so we can kind of say, okay, I see how those flavors go together. You can kind of tinker around with it in your head a little bit and get you somewhere close. But this one, McCullaugh, we looked at the ingredients and we're like, I don't know how those go together. I don't know how it's blue. How does this thing work? We don't know. We're gonna have to call in some experts.
That's right. So we emailed Fanny's. I went ahead and found their email. I did a little bit of sleuthing. It's not that hard because I've got this amazing rectangle called, that has Google inside it. So
that's right.
But I emailed and said, hey, it's McCullaugh and Brian from the Drink the Movies. We would love to feature this, but we have no idea what the actual recipe is of this. We really want to do it right. And we got a really wonderful response from this fantastic Amy McCullaugh, who helped us with the full list of ingredients, as well as a kind of a blurb about how to put them together, which is amazing. And then went above and beyond to get us the actual recipe from the real mixologists, Julian and Kristina Cox, because they put all of these amazing drinks together, and they all look amazing. We picked CODA, obviously, because it won Best Picture, and it's this really interesting blue color. It's really cool, but they all look gorgeous. We did not get the recipes for all of them, but if shout out to Julian and Kristina Cox, because these are amazing. This was the ultimate Oscar cocktail, and I was so pleased and grateful that they shared this amazing recipe with us.
Yeah,
so we can
absolutely.
recreate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So they sent us over the recipe. We got it, and then it was just a mission of tracking these ingredients down. We got pretty close on all of these. There was one ingredient we couldn't get that's local to LA, and I think they sell at one store in New York, but we're going to talk about that here in a second, and hopefully a little bit more on a future lobby bar. So to put this thing together, you're going to mix up this cocktail, and then it is a milk punch. We've talked about milk punches a couple of times in the past on lobby bars and a couple of other episodes, but let me kind of walk you through these ingredients and these steps here. So you're going to need just into like a little pitcher or glass or something like that. You're going to put 2 squirts of a saline tincture, which you're going to make. So you just take some water and add some salt to it until you get to about 5%. So I just put some water like in a cup on my scale until I got to like 50 grams. And then I just added like 2.5 grams of salt to get that salinity up. You might have to heat up that water a little bit to get it to dissolve all the way, but that's how you're going to get that tincture. So you get 2 squirts of that, 1 teaspoon of, they use Mom and Pop Seville Orange, which is like an aperitif. Think something like an Aperol, or something like that. Now the Mom and Pop, they only sell in Los Angeles and I think 1 store in New York, but you can order it online, which I did. So I have the sample pack of all 3 of their flavors coming. It hasn't come yet. So what we used was the Leopold Bros Aperitivo, which is kind of a citrus forward aperitif. So I think probably pretty similar to, like I said, to an Aperol, but I think that's, got us pretty close to what we needed to get to for this. So you're going to use a teaspoon of that, 1 teaspoon of Benedictine, and then a 1/4 ounce of Vernelle Cafe Mocha. We couldn't find this particular one at our liquor store, so we went with a different coffee aperitif from Italy. It's called cappuccino. It seemed like in the descriptions they were pretty close. So you're going to use a 1/4 ounce of that, a 1/2 ounce of Gifford Banana do Brazil, which is a banana liqueur with a little bit of like cognac backing to it, and 1.5 ounces of Fortaleza Tequila Blanco. So you put all of this into a little glass or a little pitcher, and then you add an ounce of milk and a hearty squeeze of lemon, and that milk's going to start to separate, curdle, and it starts to pull out a lot of the color and a lot of the kind of tannicness of those liquors. And you just let that sit for a little while. I put it in the fridge for I think a half an hour just to let it separate. And then you're going to start straining it. So what I do is I strain it through like a metal colander or like a metal reusable coffee filter. And then I ran it through again, just like a regular paper coffee filter. So I strained mine twice, and that takes a lot of time. It took about 6 hours for me to strain out the 3 cocktails that I made for Michaela, her husband, and myself. But once you do that, you get this crystal clear, it's kind of yellowish in color cocktail. And that's what I took over to Michaela's house when we put this thing together. So you have this base cocktail, and then to get it to turn blue, you're going to add just a pinch of blue spirulina, which is an algae. It's all natural. It is really, really blue. And it's used, you can use it as like a dietary supplement. I think a lot of people do that, but it's basically just like a food coloring. So you'll see a lot of that on the packaging. It said you could, use it in pasta and stuff if you wanted to make it blue and look really cool. So you just use a little pinch of that. It turns this thing blue. You pour it over a big ice cube. You give a little spritz of some lemon peel over that ice cube, pour it on. It's beautiful. And then you garnish it, Michaela. You got the garnish going here. Why don't you talk about that? We found it from the pictures. How
we did. So the picture has this beautiful blue drink, but on the side of it is a hook with a worm. And so, but not just any worm. It's like a beautiful sugar encrusted gummy worm. So real simple. If you have children, then you have a fishing pole. You just take, the regular fish hooks that come with the kids' fishing tackle. That may or may not have been what I did. And you get some gummy worms they have these really cool ones now that are sour, but they are covered in these sugar crystals, and they look really beautiful, and they come in a bunch of different colors. So we hooked that up and put it on the side of the drink and made it look extra fancy. And I am super proud of us trying to make the rendering of this drink. It was, again, so cool to have Fanny's support and their kind of mixologist team support us in our journey in making this cocktail and really trying to recreate it. It's so beautiful. And it's so blue. Yeah, a little bit of that stuff goes a long way. So you just want to pinch, because you can always make it more blue, but you can't make it less blue.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So you can add as much or as little of the blue spirulina as you like, just to change that color and get it as clear, as dark and murky as, I guess, the hearts in your water. Now, I guess in CODA that water should have been pretty blue up there in off the coast of New England. So, this thing, it looks stunning. It's really weird. So now we made the thing. Let's talk about drinking it. So these flavors are very strange. It's a lot of flavors. Like you said, when we saw the recipe, we're like, I don't know how those flavors work. What's this going to taste like? This is very strange. And then when you drink it, you're drinking this blue crystal clear drink, and it has like this agave kind of sweetness, and you get like a little hint of banana, but there's also like this chocolate coffee thing going on, and in your head you're like, this is blue though, it shouldn't taste like this is so strange, it's so bizarre, but it's really delicious. It's really weird that it comes together. It's so good, and as the ice starts to melt, it's so complex and interesting.
It really is, and it tastes different when you first make it to when you your last sip, because of the water addition and kind of the way that all the flavors kind of play. It is so weird, because the first sip I took, I was like, well, I love it, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to describe this drink at all. And the fact that it is blue, it throws you off completely, because you think that it's going to be like, it's definitely tequila forward. So you got the tequila backing for sure. But you're like, this is not a margarita. It's not a Paloma. It's not like any of these tequila drinks that I've ever tasted before. And it does have just the slightest hint of banana, but not too much, because I'm not a banana person. I know, Brian, you love banana liqueur. I am not. So I was really scared that we were going to go to all this trouble and I was going to hate this drink. It is amazing, and it's totally worth your time to make it. So try it, because it's so weird, but it's so good. And I was really sad that we only had enough for 3, but that's probably good, because there's a lot of tequila in this. So
yeah, that's right. And I mean, as far as batching it together, so when I made the milk punch, I made the 3 cocktails worth. I just tripled the amount of ingredients and let it strain out. So you could do, if you're doing a party to watch CODA, and I think you should definitely do that probably, and when you're watching CODA every week, like Michaela and I plan to do, definitely have these on hand. And milk punches, I guess, last for a long time, so that's good to know as well. But this is super interesting. I don't know if any of our listeners are going to go through the steps of making this. Maybe they're just having it vicariously through us. But if you do take the time to throw one of these together, definitely let us know. We want to see pictures of yours. We want to see how blue you made yours. We want to see all that stuff. We want to know what you think about these flavor combinations, or if you're familiar with any of these other liqueurs that were kind of new to us. Definitely let us know. And if you are headed out to LA, make sure you swing by the Academy Museum. Make a reservation, go have dinner and a cocktail or 2 at Fanny's. Make sure you tip your servers. Say thank you to Julian and Kristina Cox for coming up with this amazing recipe and being kind enough to share it with us. And if you see Amy McCullaugh while you're out there, just say thank you. Thank you from us at Drink the Movies. Michaela and Brian, it was awesome that she took the time to respond to us and get back to us with all of our crazy questions, because who else would go through the trouble of recreating these drinks but you and I. So
That's right.
definitely a big shout out to all of them. But now, Michaela, it is time. We've been talking about this film off and on through various episodes and lobby bars and how much we love it. So why don't we just actually talk about the movie? So why don't we take a quick break? We will have our CODA cocktail and we'll be right back to chat about the film CODA.
Spoiler warning for CODA. If you've not yet seen this film, you need to press pause right now. And I mean right now. And you need to go out, you need to get Apple TV, and you need to watch it because it's amazing. And it's been out for a little while. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about the end. We're going to talk about all the bits. So we are definitely going to spoil this thing. So it deserves to be spoiled. It was the diva queen of the night on Oscar night. And so, yeah, go grab this cocktail that took 2 days to make. And it's delicious. So let's get into it.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So, as Michaela said, it was released in 2021 on Apple TV. If you don't have Apple TV, I think you can probably do a 7-day trial. Do that. Watch CODA. Watch all of Ted Lasso. Watch CODA again, and then come back in. We can talk about this. So, this was written and directed by Cyan Hayter, and it stars Amelia Jones, Marlee Matlin, and of course, Troy Kotzer. And this film won 3 Academy Awards, nominated for 3, won 3. That's a pretty good ratio. 100% of the time, CODA wins every time. It won for Best Adapted Screenplay for Cyan Hayter, who wrote this thing. Supporting actor for Troy Kotzer. And, of course, the big one, Best Picture, forever to be known as the best film of 2021. Michaela.
Yes, as it rightfully should. So many times we talk about, the winner of Best Picture and if the Academy got it right or not, and what decisions might have played into people's voting and all of that. And this was one, at least on the outset, I was wrong. I was wrong when we were doing our Oscar You Pick'ems. And I was never more happy to be wrong, because I think that they got it right. The Academy completely got it right this time. So.
That's right. So let's get into this movie here a little bit. So it starts off and it kind of sets the scene for where this family is at. CODA stands for Child of Deaf Adults. And that is, we're getting that set up right away. It starts on this beautiful opening shot. It's of like the open harbor, bay, ocean kind of thing. The water is very dark, very gloomy. You see this fishing boat on there. And then we get out there and we're introduced to 3 of the kind of 4 members of this family. So we've got Ruby, and then her brother Leo, and her dad Frank. So Amelia Jones is playing Ruby. She is the only one in this family who is able to hear. The rest of her family is deaf, and they're on this boat. They're doing some fishing. This is a very blue collar family in Massachusetts, and it gets the scene set right away for who this family is, what they're up to, and kind of the challenges they face as they get back into shore. And you learn, like, one of the great things about this film is it's very realistic in its portrayal of the challenges.
Right. Yeah. So what's one of the things that struck me, this opening shot, as you were talking about, right? It looks like it's all one shot, and it kind of goes over the boat, and I am not, I'm going to totally butcher how I'm going to say this, but one end of the boat, which is the business end where they're like, reeling in all the fish in the net. Okay. Mm-hmm. The shot kind of goes over that, but you hear some really amazing kind of 50s music and singing. And what you realize is she's singing, what the girl Ruby is singing while they're bringing in these nets and kind of doing what they do with the fish. So they're stabbing the fish, putting them in these ice coolers, and it's like, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's a beautiful shot in and of itself. And the first time I saw this, I was like, oh, I love this movie, but I didn't know how cinematographically I was going to appreciate it. So when I rewatched it, that's the 1st thing that I noticed is this shot's really beautiful. And so they're putting these fish in. She has to go, Ruby has to go, and is basically the entire family's interpreter. They talk about how they don't really read lips. They very much kind of exist in their family unit, but for the most part, they're very insular, which I think is pretty common for being in a situation such as this, right? They really rely on Ruby to be their interpreter in all things. So when they go to shore and they have to sell their fish to, this kind of wholesaler who's buying it, he's actively ripping off this family because they can't hear what other people are getting priced out for their fish for, right? So, Ruby gets mad, but her brother Leo, he's like, I'm not stupid, I can figure this out. And she's like, but you can't, you're not figuring it out. You can't hear what they're saying. They're ripping you off. And so there's kind of this loving contention between the two of them because they obviously love each other, but he is, as her brother, is always feeling like she's kind of the key and they rely on her too much. And you can see that from the very beginning because he's like, we're able people, we can do this, we just need to adjust. And it starts off right away in this very kind of stark dynamic of what this girl has to do, and that's all before she goes to school and has to like learn math and succeed and do all the things that America is telling you to do, which is like look pretty and smell nice and
yeah. Exactly. She's a high school kid, like a senior in high school. So she has all of those stresses of being a girl in high school, but then also, kind of the pressure and the weight of, like you said, being the representative of this family more or less and being the one who speaks out. And you made a really good point to her brother, Leo, who's played by Daniel Durant. You kind of get this, I don't want to say it's simmering like it's a volatile thing, but you see kind of the weight of the burden that he feels, as the older brother, and he's not able to do this, and they kind of look past him, and that kind of pulls into like this thread of this film of his feelings too, which I think is really, really well done because it's not always apparent how much that is playing on kind of on his psyche and his persona, but I think that's really great. And yeah, like you said, Ruby has to get to high school. She's been up since 3 a.m. to go out and take care of the family business. Now she has to go to high school. High school kids are jerks, basically, at the end of the day. But we found out on the boat what Ruby really loves to do is to sing. And so when it comes time to go to school, they have to pick their extracurricular. She picks choir, much to the chagrin of her best friend Gertie. But she is there. She's going to choir, and you get kind of a really great scene of the choir. They're doing kind of their, kind of auditions where the choir director is placing them in their different, kind of vocal ranges and things. And, it gets to her, she kind of waits until the last minute to go, and then she kind of chokes. And you get this very kind of like gutted feeling that she feels almost like she's betraying her family by singing. And that comes up really, really important. As we get into, kind of some of the more family dynamics, she's talking to her mom. She's like, why would you sing? We can't hear you sing. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? So it's really kind of sad and heartbreaking in a way. And you're really pulling for Ruby to be able to, kind of pull out and do the things that she loves. But yeah, like you said, it's a very insular family, and trying to protect her, and doesn't know anything else from her life other than, being the spokesperson for her parents.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's easy for us to look at it now and be like, oh, you just need to break away. But, she's never done anything. There's a really great scene where she's talking to the choir director who went to Berklee School of Music, and he's telling her, you're really good, but you're not dedicated enough. You're showing up late to these things, and this is not going to work. I'm not going to waste my time if you don't want it badly enough. And she says, it's a testament to the script writing, I think, because she says, I've never done anything apart from my family. And at first you're like, well, so what? I mean, grow up, whatever. But the way in which she says it, and then the pause that it takes before, he speaks again, is really a testament to, again, the script writing, I think, because it's one thing to say, I've never done anything without my family, but she needs them just as much as they need her. So, just as a person who is growing up and trying to find out what they love and realizing that they have a dream of singing or acting or, dancing or whatever it is, you always want that familial support. But on top of all of that, it's like, I want you to support me, but I also need you to support pushing me away and out of this nest that you've built for me to help you succeed in your business and in your life, and be able to order at a restaurant. Because there's a scene where her crush is talking about how he remembers seeing her when she was 8 years old, ordering lunch or dinner for her entire family, because they were the only people, she was the only one that could speak and hear and interpret what they wanted. So it sounded really cool at 8 because she was ordering beers, but how else was that going to happen? So it really just interesting family dynamics. And it's very tough watching this as a person, because you're seeing Ruby do some very normal things for her age, right? She develops a crush. She likes this boy. They are picked, of course, to sing together. And so it's this really, heartfelt time. But then he understands and starts to learn the dynamics of her family. And she finds it totally embarrassing. Her parents are very much in love. They're very physical. So there's this funny moment where, they're in the house. He's been kind of caught in the middle of this family dynamic, and it's kind of funny. They're sitting on the couch, and the mother and the father are trying to talk to them about, hey, you like each other. Maybe you're going to start having sex, please be safe and all of this. And it's hilarious, but Ruby is mortified because they're not able to just talk. They have to sign it. And it's, again, outside looking in, it's really funny, but Ruby's just completely mortified while they're trying to explain how safe sex works and all of the hilarity that ensues there. And they don't understand why she's so embarrassed, because this is just their life. And they're like, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is how we communicate. It's fine.
Yeah. And you kind of get that sense, as the audience, you almost kind of see it through kind of this crush that she has. I think his name is Miles in the film, because when they talk about this event later, he's like, that was hilarious. And she's like, no, that wasn't hilarious. That was completely embarrassing. And she has this family dynamic because, growing up, everyone's kind of embarrassed by their parents a little bit, right? To some extent. But it really does a good job of laying that out kind of, in the initial parts of the film. Like, her parents come in to pick her up from school. They have this rap music just blasting as loud as can be, which, all of the kids who, are just seeing this, think it's hilarious. So, of course they're doing it because they can feel the vibrations. But, stuff like that is very embarrassing. They go to the doctor, for some problems with some jock itch. That's of course incredibly embarrassing for, stuff that happens at the family dinner. She's trying to listen to music and her mom's like, don't listen to music because we can't all listen to music. So it's just, the film and the script, it does a really good job of laying out kind of that family dynamic in such a way that we really can get a sense of what that must be like for, someone like Ruby to live in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really well put together too, because all of these scenes kind of run together in such a way where it tells the story in these kind of vignettes, but they're done in such a way where towards the end, when you realize everything's kind of coming to a head, Ruby has to decide, does she really want to sing, or does she want to continue to kind of be this interpreter captain of this family, so to speak? And I love the conversation when she finally tells her parents, because she's been kind of doing this quietly. She hasn't gone out to both her mom and dad and brother and said, hey, look, I really love to sing and I'm going to pursue this in my life. She's like, oh, I've joined the choir. And the mom, I love Marlee Matlin because she plays this character so well. But you also see kind of this self-serving bit in Marlee Matlin's character, because she says, well, if we were blind, would you want to be an artist and do paintings all day? It's so funny. You're like, this is your way of rebelling. Mm-hmm. And of course the Ruby's like, this is not about you at all. This has nothing to do with you at all. It's about me. And so there's this great moment where she finally does say, look, I have got an opportunity. I want to audition for Berklee School of Music. I want to go to school. And they were, the parents are understandably shocked. Marlee Matlin just looks completely devastated during this entire scene. And, you say things just like in a real family, you say things that maybe you're not thinking about or mean, because she immediately is like, well, you can't, we've started this business now. Mm-hmm. They've decided to do this co-op for their fish, selling, because they were getting completely ripped off by this wholesaler. And so they're trying to do that, but they cannot do that without an interpreter of some kind. The village around them, none of them are hearing impaired. None of them know how to sign. They don't know how to lip read. So they're like, you have to stay. We just did this. We just built this because we thought that you could be part of it. And she's like, all you care about is my interpretation and me. And then the father, of course, comes in and he's like, no, you're part of this family. That's not what your mom means. Like, she really, and it's so amazingly done, because you realize that they have these arguments and things, it's just in a very different way. And in mm-hmm. this case, it's about something that's a little different, right? But I really just love the dynamic of how they communicate. And unlike a bunch of other films, there's no voiceover. So you have to read the subtitles, which is great. And back in previous movies and plays, you've had somebody kind of doing a voiceover of some sort. Mm-hmm. And in this one, I thought it was a really good choice for them not to do that, because that's not the way it works in the real world.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And you'd mentioned that they'd kind of started this co-op thing. One of my favorite kind of individual scenes of this. Aside from like the kind of the four scenes that lead up to the kind of conclusion of this film, there's a scene where they're doing like this town hall thing with all of the fishermen and kind of the people who are running this fish wholesale kind of group kind of thing. And one of the things that Ruby has been doing throughout the film, she, her dad is complaining about the prices or about, the times and all of this stuff. And, he's complaining to Ruby and she's like, well, don't tell me, tell them. Right. She's, kind of fed up. She doesn't want to be the mouthpiece, forever, that, he needs to find his own voice. And you kind of get him and her brother finding their own voice in this, where she's still having to interpret his signing, but he stands up kind of for himself, for the other fishermen. And that's really great. He finds his own, kind of way to communicate and lead this kind of revolution, I guess, of these fishermen. And they go off to start their own, fishermen's co-op kind of thing. And then, that's just another burden on Ruby then, because, her family's like, well, we just started this thing. You can't leave now. You can't go to college now. But she really wants to. So she eventually does kind of stand up and she skips this thing. And that's when the Coast Guard comes in. It costs them this big, huge fine. They're going to have to hire someone on. And that probably for me is kind of my favorite point in the film, because that's really when you kind of see her brother kind of expose his feelings for it, which has just been kind of simmering under this the whole time. They're kind of talking at dinner. And he calls her Queen Ruby. He kind of storms off and she goes and finds him. And he's like, you should go to college. Why are you staying here? Why are you letting them keep you here? Go do your thing. You're brilliant and amazing. Go do this. I'm the older brother. I'm the one who should have these burdens on me. And I think that is really beautiful and really great. And we talked about the Oscars last week and we talked about snubs and not snubs. And Daniel Durant, I think, was snubbed. I think if you have, from Power of the Dog, what's his name? I totally love him. Jesse Plemons, one of my favorites of all time. But what he did in Power of the Dog, I don't think was nearly as impactful or as passionate or as great as what Daniel Durant was. So if you're going to have a dual nomination from the same film, I think he was snubbed because he's incredible in this role, and you really feel kind of like I said, the burden of responsibility he feels like he should have, and it's misplaced onto Ruby. Maybe he's just great, and I love kind of that lead up to that part of the film as we get into the kind of final act here.
Yes, no, I agree. I think he was brilliant, and I love their dynamic because I love that scene. They're first of all, it's beautifully shot because they're out on this ocean area where it's
kind of like this inlet kind of thing.
Yeah, because
it's at low tide.
Yeah, and so the rocks are there, and he's just hanging out, being on his own. And he looks at her, and he's like, "You're really good." Gertie is someone that's her best friend, but he's also kind of dating. And he says, "Gertie says you're amazing. Like, she can hear you." And they had just gone to see her perform in this concert, and they literally couldn't even feel the vibrations because they were so far away. So they're talking about, the parents are like, "What do you want to have for dinner tonight? What are you going to do?" They're not entranced by what's happening at all because they literally can't hear it, but they see the reaction of everyone else. And when Ruby sings, she's got this powerhouse voice that is all sweet and yet rich. And it's just amazing. So he's like, "You're really good. You don't need to stay here, and you should go, and I will figure it out," which I thought was really sweet and very Big Brother-ish for her, protective of her, but also protective of his parents. Again, you'd see this in any other family. It's just presented in a very different way because these are fully rich characters versus writing this as if these are just deaf people. And I thought that was a beautiful distinction that they make throughout this entire script and the way this whole show is presented.
Yeah, and you had mentioned the kind of concert that they go to, and that's really kind of what starts off kind of this final act, right? They've more or less accepted the fact that she's going to be singing, but you have kind of this introductory scene where her mom, Jackie, played by Marlee Matlin, comes in and gives her this dress. She said, "I bought you this dress for your recital," and they go on to have this really kind of sweet mother-daughter moment where they're talking, and Ruby, is asking her mom, "Are you sad that I'm not deaf?" And her mom, very, very vulnerably and very truthfully says, "Yeah, I was when you were born and we found out you could hear. I was devastated because I didn't think that we would ever have, anything in common. I didn't think I could be a good mother to you." It's really sweet. It's really heartfelt. It's really emotional. And then, they go off to this concert. And like you said, they can't hear it. The sound design is brilliant when it finally kind of pulls down. Like you said, they're having kind of these other conversations because they can't hear what's going on. But, eventually they start looking around and they're noticing that people are smiling. And her dad, Troy Kotzer, points out, I think it's the choir director's wife is literally like in tears from it and stuff. And they're looking at this. And I think it's at that point, it's kind of dawning on them that maybe she is special. Maybe they, really shouldn't hold her back. They should, release her into the world and, let her make a run of this thing. And then you have probably the most beautiful scene in this whole thing after when they get back and her dad, Troy Kotzer, and he's like, I just need a minute. And she kind of hangs back and they go and sit on the bed of the truck and they have their moment there. Michaela. So I'll see if you can get through this one here.
If I can get through it without crying. So, you can feel vibrations, right? That's how sound is created. And so it's such a beautiful scene because Frank, played by Troy Kotzer, is saying, "Hey, I just need some air." And he's out on the bed of his truck and he's looking up at the stars and he's talking about how the stars look different, on land versus out in the ocean. And they've just been told that they're going to need to hire an interpreter, and they've gotten into some trouble because they were hearing impaired and they couldn't hear, the Coast Guard give them a radio signal or, anything. So when the Coast Guard finally comes to them on the boat and boards their ship, they're like, what is going on? And they're both the father and son are looking like, what are you guys doing here? And it just becomes this whole big thing because they didn't have an interpreter that day. So he's, you think that this conversation is going to be one of those where Frank says, I don't know what we're going to do if we can't get back out on the water. But instead he turns to his daughter, Ruby, who's there, and says, hey, will you sing for me? And he kind of puts his hands on her vocal box so that he can feel the vibrations because he can't hear her. And it's really beautiful because she sings this whole song, and the song that she's singing is about how you need someone to survive, and you're all I need is you. And it's like a romantic song, but the more you listen to it, because it's a very closed in kind of shot. And so the more you listen to the words and her voice, as well as like him pressing her vocal box and her shoulders and all, trying to sense this experience that is happening, you realize that it's also about family and how you need them to, you just need your family around you. And they've really needed her for the longest time, and she's really needed them, but in a different way. And it's absolutely, it's so beautiful. And so you think that that's going to be the most impactful part of this movie. Yeah. And then it just gets worse. And by worse, I mean better, because then there's, 3 scenes after that are all just heavy hitters and so good.
That's right. So at this point, Ruby has come to terms that she's not going to be going to school to pursue her passions. At least right now, she's going to stay back and help her family get this business off the ground, at least for the foreseeable future. But on the flip side of that, I think her, largely led by her father here, has decided that no, in fact, she is going to go to her audition. So you kind of get in the next scene. She's laying in bed, and her, I think it's her mom. I don't remember for sure, but one of her parents comes in and wakes her up, tells her to get up, and she's like, what's going on? And you'll see them kind of leaving, and they tell her, if we're kicking you out of the house, we're all going. So of course her parents and her brother all go. They drive down into Boston to do her audition to get into school there. And of course it's a closed audition, so the parents can't go in and watch, but they make their way up to the balcony. I feel like the Rossies are pretty slippery when it comes to things like this. They get up to the balcony, and she goes in and she starts singing. It's really sweet. She's kind of choking on her words a little bit. She's not really leaning into it. Her choir director, flubs some notes, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, can we start over?" And she starts singing again. You see her parents come in, and she's singing "Both Sides Now" by Joni Mitchell is the song that she's performing. She sees her parents up there, and she starts signing it, which is beautiful. And it's hard to watch through all of the tears that are streaming down your face as she's doing this. And she does it. And then you get a really beautiful kind of montage, like as she's singing it, of her, helping, kind of the new person that they've hired to help on the boat, giving them the run of that, waiting for her, acceptance email to come through, all of this stuff, all of this exciting stuff as she's finishing out this song. And then, of course, the film ends then with her, leaving the family, going off to pursue her passions. And, she gets out of Gertie's car one last time to go and give them a farewell hug. But it's real beautiful. I will say it's a real beautiful coming of age and family story we have here in CODA.
Yeah, for sure. It really is. They could not have picked a better song, I think. I mean, I'm for anybody who doesn't know, I love Joni Mitchell with every fiber of my being. And so as they talk about how they're going to pick that as the song for her to do it for her classical audition. And at first I was confused because I didn't think that was classical, but I'm not a music I didn't go to Berklee School of Music, so I don't know what that means, but it's so beautiful. And if you don't know the song, it's really looking at things in two different sides. So there's two different ways to think about clouds. There's two different ways to think about love, and there's two different ways to think about life. And I do love that the first two kind of stanzas are in the theater where she's looking up at her family and she starts signing so that they can enjoy what's being done. Her voice is beautiful. It's, obvious that the judges or the people that are there kind of critiquing her audition are impressed. And then you're right, that last stanza, you can see not only her teaching this other person, but, her brother and her mother are working with this co-op that they've built, and they're teaching these other community members some signs so that they can, communicate with these people. And, it's interesting because at the very beginning they feel like it's very much us and them. And they're like, hey, they're hearing folks, they don't understand who we are, but they also didn't. One of the things that Ruby points out is that they never gave any of these folks a chance to even enter their world in a way to communicate either. Now, there's a whole bunch of controversy around who should be the first to make that step and all of that. But I did think it was really beautiful that they were, you see this dialogue that's starting to occur through sign language. So they're going to stand up on their own and not rely on an interpreter every single time they need one, by engaging these members of the community co-op together. And I thought that was really beautiful. And then, so she gets in, spoiler, she gets into the School of Music, and then her family sees her off as she leaves, and it's really beautiful, and it's it's so good.
Yeah,
it's hard to describe why it's so wonderful, but it's
that's right. So so that is CODA. So this film, I think it kind of had more or less like its big like international debut at Sundance, and then Apple picked it up to show it. So I watched this back when it when it first came to Apple. It wasn't like a day one kind of thing, but I'd heard about it, and I'd heard that people were really high on it. So I watched it pretty early, and I had to, tell Michaela, over the course of the next month or two that she needed to watch it. And then she finally did. We both fell absolutely in love with it. Like Michaela mentioned, she didn't pick it for her Oscar win. She went with her head, and not with her heart, on this occasion. But yeah, this was definitely both of our picks to win the Oscars. So we were very happy to see that it did. And we hope that everyone gets a chance to watch it. And we hope that, if you're listening to it, you get a chance to watch it too. Cyan Hayter, who wrote this, probably before this, most notably was like the writer for Orange is the New Black. She'd done a little bit of television directing. She did write and direct a movie called Tallulah, which was a Netflix film back like 5-6 years ago. But this was kind of her, I guess, breakout, and what a way to come out into the film world, with this Sundance gem, and then obviously the Best Picture winning film. So kudos to you there on that. And like I said, the story is really kind of hinges on the writing and the way they're able to kind of tell this story. We talked a little bit about the way that looked kind of with that opening shot. And I think that's what makes like the stuff with the fishing so staggering looking, is because the rest of the film is pretty much like in these static shots. So you really don't get like this big, like cinematographically scoped things, except for when they're out on the water, which looks really brilliant. And I don't know how they did it, because it's just the three of them on this boat. So and it doesn't look like it's on some sort of like water set. Like it looks like it's actually out in the sea. So it looks fantastic, and how they could pull it off, for what I'm assuming to be kind of a lower budget sort of thing that they put together is really pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. The set direction in this is really amazing. Their house looks like this beautiful, like tiny cottage thing that's looks like it's very close to the water. And as pretty as it is, it's kind of run down, but they have these really cool, like these ceilings are all weird because it's like an A-frame house. And so I don't know how they made that work technically, because I just don't know how they did that, because I don't think this was made on a soundstage. I think this was actually filmed on location in Massachusetts. So really cool there. And then there's there are these scenes where when Ruby wants to go and kind of center herself and find herself, she goes to this amazing like place that is surrounded by cliffs, but there's water in like a lake. And I don't know where that exists. I don't know how there was no one else there, because it's completely deserted, but it's beautiful. And those shots are also really beautiful and spanning, right? Which is such a drastic contrast from like the school shots and the, all the other kind of quote unquote normal stuff that's not, nothing out of the ordinary there that we wouldn't see, but really just beautiful. This is a beautiful film. And so I think I talked to someone last week that was disappointed that CODA won because of that. And they said, it's not big, like Power of the Dog,
yeah.
Big shots. And it's not, it's telling a story that's really not all that, it's a coming of age story, and it's breaking away from your parents, and how different is that really? It's not that original. It just takes a different take on it. And while I understand that sentiment, I also think that you're not looking and you're not sensing CODA enough. Because there's so much more to this than that. And so it does tick all of the boxes, maybe not in the same way, because we don't have a mountain range that's not in Montana to talk about, but but it's still, it's definitely deserving. And I'm so glad that it won.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm more shocked that I was able to talk about this without crying like a little baby, because it's so emotional.
that is an actual fact. So anyone who knows Michaela at all, knows how trying this was for sure. So that is CODA. It's beautiful, it's brilliant, and we're so happy to have it in our lives, and we hope that everyone's had a chance to watch it, and we hope you've liked going back through it a little bit with us, because it was definitely something that I needed to go back and rewatch. And so I'm glad we decided to cover this as our one last kind of Oscar grab here for this year. So let us know at home if you watched CODA, if you watched it back when it came out, or if you watched it as we got closer to Oscars and the buzz was starting to pick up for it. Let us know all that. Let us know if you decide to make one of these CODA cocktails. We want to see it. We want to see pictures of yours, because it's beautiful. Let us know if you have any other good milk punch recipes, because that's a really fun technique, and I want to definitely get into that a little bit more. And definitely let us know if you've ever been to the Academy Museum and had a meal at Fanny's, because we want to know that. We want to know what you ate. We want to know what you drank. We want to know if Julian and Kristina Cox mixed you something special, or if you had something awesome. Let us know all that. And thank you again to them and to Amy McCullaugh for helping us get the information for the cocktail. We definitely really appreciate that. And we can't wait to get out to LA ourselves and get to the Academy Museum and check it out and take like 10,000 pictures with all of our favorite movie things. So definitely do that. So send us all your pictures, feedback, comments, praise of CODA. We want to get all that stuff. So find us on Instagram and Twitter. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of our CODA cocktail, the written recipe, because I was probably rambly when I was going through it, check that out on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And we would really appreciate it if you are liking the podcast. A 5-star review goes a long way to getting Drink the Movies out there. So, Michaela, where should they be getting subscribed and doing all that stuff?
You can do all of that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere Anchor podcasts are distributed. We're on Stitcher now. Please subscribe if you're liking what you're hearing. We really love our 2 drops a week. You get a lobby bar, drop on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do our deep dives with deeper cocktails, more definitely more complicated stuff, but even more fun. There's more fun. So
that's right.
Leave us a 5-star review if you want. We'd really appreciate it. Helps us get the Drink the Movies out there. We're loving this community and it is exploding. We've just had like the best week that we've ever had in the history of Drink the Movies. So we're really grateful for all of you. If you're loving what you're hearing, tell your friends.
Yeah, that's right. And we have some stickers now. So if you want a sticker or two, just reach out to us on any of those social media places and we'll probably drop some in the mail because we're just that nice. But for now, Michaela, you made it through. We're gonna end this episode right now. You can go and have a cry thinking about how emotional CODA was, how beautiful it was. And we're gonna have another one of these CODA cocktails because they're just that beautiful and tasty. So why don't we go do that? We'll decompress for a minute and we'll be back to talk about a movie next time on Drink the Movies. Best Picture.